Hello, and welcome to the Talking Apron. This is the podcast that turns knowledge into meals that support your health. Here at the Talking Apron and Kitchen Table Talk online membership, we're not about cutting out foods or following strict labels. Our philosophy is veggie forward, using vegetables as the foundation of every meal, not as an afterthought. While protein often takes center stage, the truth is, fiber is what most people are missing. By focusing on vegetables for fiber and micronutrients, we nourish the gut, we reduce inflammation, and we protect against or reverse type 2 diabetes, while still enjoying the balance of protein, healthy fats, and flavor. And who am I? I'm Ann Bernardin. I'm a nutrition educator, diabetes prevention coach, and a lifelong home cook. I also happen to live with type 1 diabetes, and it has shown me just how food choices matter. For decades, I've been helping people eat with confidence, steady their blood sugar, and enjoy food without the overwhelm. So each week on this podcast, we dive into nutritional facts that give you some appreciation so you can make better choices on how foods help our health, some practical know-how, and some simple meal planning strategies. And I hope plenty of you've got this. You can make changes. So whether you're newly diagnosed or navigating prediabetes, aiming to prevent it, or just want to eat healthier and cook with more purpose, you're in the right place. Now, before we get cooking, remember to go ahead and go grab that cuppa of water. Good health always starts with hydration. Now, today's episode, Zucchini Power, Fresh Summer Eating for Blood Sugar Control. Here's what we're going to be covering. How this slim and vibrant-looking squash helps us with nutrition. Why zucchini's fiber and water-rich combo keeps glucose steady. How to pick, store, and preserve from the farm stand to the refrigerator or from your garden to the refrigerator, without all that slime and sogginess. And how we're going to roast, grill, or grate to be able to eat multiple times or to store in the freezer. And then we'll have some recipes, some quick recipes, and then some more in-depth recipes on how to go ahead and navigate using that abundance of that summer green vegetable. Then we might even have a couple fun facts, etc., about zucchini. So to get started, let me ask you, have you ever thought that vegetables feel pointless? Carbs are carbs, right? Well, it's not. How each vegetable can contribute to our healthy way of living is different for each vegetable. And that's why they always say balance, abundance, variety, etc. So zucchini, what about zucchini? Zucchini has 7 calories or 3.1 carbs per 1 cup sliced. It has 1 gram of fiber, woohoo, to the fiber, and it has 1.2 grams of protein. Yes, you heard that right. Vegetables have protein. And then it has zero negative fat, no fat and carbs. So here's what matters. It has 15% of our daily requirement for vitamin C. It also has 8% potassium, lutein, and zeaxanthin, which is good for eye health. I couldn't pronounce that one. But the high water and fiber content of zucchini helps slow the digestion, and it also lowers the net carbs for what you're eating, which lightens the glucose load that we carry in our body. So if you're concerned about diabetes, prediabetes, zucchini is a great, perfect side dish, or you can substitute it as a pasta or rice and just put the spaghetti sauce on top of that and just substitute it in. Now, when we think of picking or, buying zucchini, how do we look at it? Well, one, at this time of year, there are many a home gardener that's trying to give away. In fact, I was walking in my neighborhood and someone had a box free, and it had like the 2-foot long zucchini. Well, a little bit too long. It was probably hidden under the leaves, but I took it anyway because I can grate it and put it in pancakes or carve out the seeds and make a boat for my meat grain inside. You can do a lot with a large zucchini. But that extra zucchini, and when that struggle happens, we put it in the fridge and maybe we forget about it. It gets mushy before use. So we don't want that to happen. When you pick zucchini or choose it in the grocery store, you want the small to medium. You want them to be firm, a glossy skin, no soft spots, squishy. And when you open it, you don't want those bloated seeds. That means they're ready to rot, to disintegrate, to go into the ground to actually grow another plant. We want to keep zucchini unwashed in a perforated produce bag. You don't want the moisture to build up in a bag that's stored in the refrigerator. Now you put it in the crisper and it can last a good 5 to 7 days. Now, if you keep it dry, sometimes I'll put in a paper towel in the bag as well to absorb any excess moisture if there is some. But remember, don't wash yet, because whenever we wash, there we go. Water breeds bacteria, breeds mold. So we don't want to do that. Now, how do we take care of the excess? How do we store it? Well, a great way is to freeze it when it's grated. A great way is to grate. You want to shred your zucchini. You are going to squeeze out the moisture. I usually put it in a bowl that's layered with paper towels, and then I'll press down. I'll lie it flat on a baking sheet or in the 1-cup frozen bags, and I'll lie them flat, freeze on a baking sheet. And I do that to keep it flat because sometimes when we put it in the freezer, it'll get all those ripples effect. Or, you put it on something that's uneven and it'll freeze that way. And then that way you can store them flat or standing up, but they don't take up a lot of space because they're vertical and they're compressed. Now, when you take these out of the freezer to use, they're going to be great for muffins or fritters, something that's cooked and baked with other things. Zucchini out of the freezer, strict to a stir fry, is a little bit soggy, so I don't recommend it for that, but I definitely recommend it for zucchini bread. I use it for pancakes, muffins, etc. And did you know that chocolate does go well with zucchini? It does. I have my chocolate chips, or I make chocolate protein powder zucchini pancakes. That's an extra tip for you, bonus for you. Now, how do we actually cook them? Well, you can parboil it. You can put it in an ice bath, and you can freeze it towel dry and freeze it that way as well. And that will make it a little bit easier or better on the taste buds for stir fries. So that would be, it's called blanching. You blanch it, boil it just for a minute, put it in an ice bath to stop the cooking. But again, I find zucchini hard to eat it straight from the freezer because of I'm sensitive to the mush factor. Now, let's get a little personal right now. Are you someone that's just been handed a rising A1C? Or maybe the word prediabetes has flashed across your screen, your portal, and your doctor has said it, and suddenly your mind is spinning. Oh no, what can I eat? Do I have to give up pasta? Will I end up on insulin? This fear can be instantaneous, especially with all those awful ads on TV promoting all the diabetes medicines. Guess what? That does not have to be you at all. Sometimes only a few changes are needed or a few to start. And to make starting easier, grab my free guide, and it's called What Now? 10 Questions Women Ask When Diabetes is Knocking. And get some clear, science-backed answers that you can use at your very next meal. No jargon, no judgment, just friendly, step-by-step answers to some questions you may have so you can get started. All right, let's get back to zucchini. So cooking, you ask? Do you ever feel that healthy cooking takes too much time? Or, after work, you come home and you're just over and done with cooking after a lifetime of it? Yes, I get that way also, which is why I always make more than I need so I can prepare for the future. Now, if I have a sheet pan, I'm a single lady. I use my oven. I don't like cooking for one meal. It's a waste of energy and of my time. So I always, what's called batch cooking, if you don't know what it is, it means cook more than one serving. So I will cut, one way to do it is you can cut 4 squash into the half moons. In other words, you slice it longwise, and then you'll slice them again in smaller pieces so they look like a half moon. You put them in a bag, add in a tablespoon of olive oil, put them in a plastic bag, put some olive oil, maybe some garlic powder, salt and pepper, onion powder, whatever the sort of seasonings you like. Personally, I like putting in Italian seasonings. And then I'll put them on a sheet pan. Yes, I do like to use parchment paper because cleanup is such a breeze if I put it on parchment paper. I'm going to roast 425 for 15 minutes, cool it, portion it into airtight containers, and it keeps for 4 to 5 days or longer. And now what are you going to do with it? Well, you're going to use it in either omelets on top of a green bowl, put it on top of your green salad. You can mix it with tuna salad, put a little bit of balsamic vinegar on it, and you have a really great 2-minute lunch. Now, another option is to, add some nuts in there. And then you're going to be fuller, have a well-balanced little lunch. I'll call it a lunch snack. Next thing that's happening is on the grill. Slice it lengthwise. Grill it. Easy peasy. You have a easy meal. You're going to brush it with maybe a little bit of avocado oil because avocado oil can take the higher heat of the grill. 3 minutes aside. Store them in parchment. You can reheat in the toaster oven. You can wrap around some mozzarella. You can actually cut them in half because remember they're the lengthwise strip. Use them as bread. Cut them a little bit thicker. Use them as bread and put some of your lettuce, tomato, maybe even a little mozzarella and make a little sandwich out of it. Very easy to do. I do the same thing with eggplant. And then you see this Instagram. There are certain folks that are advertising how to make a lot of freezer meals. This is super easy. You take a gallon Ziploc bag, 2 cups of sliced zucchini, a bell pepper, slice up a bell pepper, whichever way you want, chunks or strips, add in a chopped onion. It can freeze. Zip it up, stick it in the freezer, take it out, and you dump it straight into a hot wok and add some soy sauce, some ginger. Then dinner is done instant. And if you wanted to, when you cook up your rice, take a serving of rice and stick it in the freezer. And then you just take out the rice, defrost that, and do your zucchini stir-fry pack, and you've got an instant meal. So many different ways you can make your life easier by thinking of some of these ahead of time options to utilize. So let's get into those were all recipe ideas. Now I've got a couple of recipes that you can try. Now, if you subscribe to my newsletter or pick up that free guide, these recipes will come to you weekly in an email. So here's a pesto pasta recipe. You're going to spiralize your zucchini. Yeah, they call them zoodles. Now, if you don't want to spiralize, what I do is I cut my zucchini into about 2-inch, maybe inch and a half inch logs. Then I stand them vertically and I actually make zucchini sticks. So if you don't spiralize, you can make sticks. Teaspoon of olive oil. You're going to saute for about 2 minutes. Then you're going to add in perhaps some cooked chickpea pasta or some whole wheat pasta, something with a little more substance. and you're going to add in some basil pesto. Maybe store-bought, maybe something you've made from all that luscious basil that you grew. You're going to toss it, going to be warm. You're going to get fiber from the zucchini. You're going to get fiber from the chickpea pasta. You're going to get all that luscious water and nutrients from the zucchini, and it's comfort. It's filling, and you don't have a spike in your blood sugar. The next, you can make zucchini chips, and these are Parmesan flavored. You're going to dip some thin rounds in a whisked egg white. You'll coat it with almond flour that's mixed with Parmesan cheese, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio. If you do 1 tablespoon almond flour, 1 tablespoon Parmesan cheese. 1 cup almond flour, 1 cup grated Parmesan cheese. You're going to bake those at 400 for about 12 minutes. It is a lovely, crunchy snack, and it is true net carbs per serving. Now, this can be done in an air fryer, but depending upon how large your air fryer is, it's hard to do the batching because it won't hold a lot. And here we go with that chocolate. Double chocolate zucchini muffins. In this recipe, it calls for oat flour, which is 1.5 cups, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon baking powder, pinch of salt, and then you're going to fold in 1 cup of that grated zucchini, 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of olive oil, maybe 1/3 cup of monk fruit sweetener. Me, I like mine a little less sweet because it's going to have chocolate chips. You can use stevia, but do remember the artificial sweeteners are exponentially sweeter than a teaspoon of sugar. So to me, 1/3 cup of monk fruit sweetener seems too much. I tend to cook without oats, with almond. I make up my own recipes. So I'm giving you a recipe that's tried and true. It's not one of my own. And that's why I'm adjusting the sugar, because I know my taste buds want less sugar. 1/2 cup of unsweetened almond milk. Now, if you do use almond milk, here's another nutrition tip. Make sure it is fortified with calcium. Get that extra boost when you can, especially for those of us of a certain age that have to be concerned about osteoporosis. Then we're going to add in 1/4 cup of dark chocolate chips. And that is awesome. Love my dark chocolate. We're going to bake it 18 minutes at 350. And this, you have a fiber-rich treat, antioxidants from the dark chocolate. You've got the fiber from the oatmeal, the oat flour, which is great heart healthy. And then it's also kid approved because kids are going to be eating. If you have kids or grandkids, they've got the vegetables in it and they will not notice. So here are some fun facts. Zucchini is a fruit. Don't you know? It's cousin to melons and cucumbers. Yes, because it has seeds in it. And it's harvested immature, so the exterior skin is tender. Now, Italian immigrants popularized it in the U.S. after the 1920s, and it was zucchino, and it just meant little squash. So when you want to reduce the weeping and sautéing, cut off the blossom end, not the stem end. Cut the stem end first, then cut off the blossom end last. And that will reduce it from weeping and getting all that moisture out, and that will be cooked out. Now, one of the recommendations always is don't toss out those ends. Freeze them. You can either put them in a stock if you're making bone broth or chicken broth or any type of vegetable broth, using all the ends and storing them in the freezer and then filtering them out later adds a lot of bonus nutrients. All right, that's it for today's kitchen chat. And now you got to remember that every healthy and balanced plate is a small step towards your future healthy self. You only need one change at a time. Now, if you've gained an insight, feel free to share with a friend. Share this episode. Let them know what the Talking Apron is about. Maybe they need some apron courage. Maybe they're struggling to reinvent. Get a lot of good ideas here. So leave a quick review so more women know that they can find their way here. And until next time, I am cheering you on. Thanks for visiting.